But I am happy to announce Dr. Amber Hyatt to you as your first presenter. So we met a couple of years ago at a parish visit in Tioga. And anybody from Tioga, Immaculate Heart here? Shame on them. Shame on them. So I was very impressed when I went to the parish visit, because many of their catechists were professional teachers as well. And I'm like, well, Father Ricky, you got an A-team here, right? I mean, you got professionals doing this. And then when I saw Amber, she's like, she got the DR in front of her name, doctor. And I'm like, oh, what you doctor of? And at the time I was working in the medical field, and I realized it's not the medical doctor, but she's associate professor of education at LCU. So she's one that teaches teachers how to teach. She was also a catechist. She's not a catechist anymore because just life has taken a different path for her, a beautiful path for her. But I am happy to bring her here because ever since I met her that day, probably 2.5 years ago, I wanted her to present. And another thing that I will say, that Amber and all the other presenters, when I asked them to do this, never one of them said no. I didn't give them a chance to say no, but none of them said no. All right. So I'm thankful for her ministry, and her expertise this morning on relational learning. Thank you, Amber.
Okay, can y'all? Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So what I'm going to go through is a presentation I created last night. I'm not a prepare ahead person, sorry. It goes against every teaching principle I was taught, but I just can't get it together. And whenever I drove through the gate this morning, it dawned on me. I was here for my own retreat 25 years ago, and had you told me I was going to come and do a presentation here again, I would have said, no way, never. I called my mom after the first night. I'm like, come get me, I have a migraine. She came, got me. She brought me back here at 8 o'clock the next morning. She said, you're staying. So I have learned to talk a little bit more. Being in front of people still makes me nervous. I can get up in front of a classroom of 20, 26 little kids, 12, 15 college students, but adults are still scary. So what we're going to go through today is our agenda. We'll talk about the stages of children's development, the barriers to education, lesson development, and then presenting information. So a little about my background. I have an ed leadership, so doctorate degree in education. It's kind of a running joke in our family. I get a new kid with each degree. So for my associate degree, I had a 9-month-old. For my bachelor's, I had a 6-month-old. And then whenever I graduated with my master's, I was pregnant with my 3rd child. Whenever I got my doctorate degree, about a year later, we adopted 2 children from foster care. So we still are fostering, and that's kind of how I've changed paths. We now have the 2 adopted, our 3 biological, and I left the 2 teenage girls with a baby on a feeding tube this morning. So hopefully they make it until I get back. I'm like, I fed him, he's good, just keep him alive. So I've been at LCU for about 7 years. Before that, I was in the classroom for about 6, 7 years as well, in a special education setting. I've been through a couple of churches in my lifetime. I was baptized at St. Pius in Lafayette, and then my family moved to Central Louisiana, so I started attending St. John's in DeVille, which was also at that time a parish with St. Winifred and Effie, and St. Francis and St. Anne and Colleen. So we would rotate through those churches depending on which church service we needed to attend. Saturday we went to St. Winifred. Sunday morning at 10:30, if we wanted to sleep in a little bit, we would go to St. Francis and St. Anne. Whenever I went off to college, we moved to Eunice. So I was at St. Anthony of Padua down there, and that is also where I was married at. Moved back to Central Louisiana, and now we're at Immaculate Heart in Tioga. So I have 2 of those kids that you might have gotten in your classroom who were not baptized as babies because I adopted them later on. So they went through their traditional catechism classes but could not participate in communion. So whenever we got to church, they're like this, walking up the aisle. Finally, by the time they made their communion, which they actually had to do the whole confirmation process together, the deacon who was handing out communion, he's like, can they have it? I'm like, yes, they're good. Because they had been there for 2 years where they couldn't take it whenever they should have been, traditionally able to take it. So, I actually left being a catechist because I started a nonprofit dyslexia center in Pineville. I thought it was just going to be me running a one-room facility. It has actually turned into a larger building with 2 extra employees, and everybody wants to come on Wednesday nights. So apparently people don't normally go to church on Wednesdays anymore. So the classes are on Wednesday night, and then we have kids who want to come for services on Wednesday night. So that's how I ended up leaving the catechist role. So for this presentation, what do you need to be successful? Piece of paper and a pencil. Is everybody good? Awesome. All right, so our traditional expectations of a teacher. The teacher is up presenting, kids are sitting there listening, right? That's what we thought. That's what I thought when I was going to be a teacher. They were going to listen, do everything on... Not anymore. We have to move to a more human-centered model. We need autonomous learning where the students and the teachers are communicating back and forth during the lesson. And boundless resources. The internet is fabulous. It can also be horrible. We had a teacher in the classroom. She would go to Google something. She'd have the kids turn around, face the back wall while she Googled, and then they could turn around because you never knew what you were going to get whenever you Googled something you thought would be safe. Turned out to be not so safe. And then how do we ensure they are understanding, and then what can we do for the next lesson to keep them engaged? So whenever we get to talking about children and their development from when I was growing up, when you were growing up, to the children of today is not the same. How many of you are teachers in here? About half of you, 3/4 of you. Have you noticed the children are changing?
Oh, yes.
All right, so whenever we talk about physical development, so what can the child physically do, such as hands-on, walking through the hallways, stuff like that. Ages 3 to 6, we assume that they can use fine and gross motor skills. Any little people teacher, pre-K, kindergarten? Have you ever got that kid who cannot even hold the pencil whenever they get there to you? Yes, we assume they can. They cannot. I'm raising one of those now. Still, as a 4th grader, we cannot read what the child writes. Middle school, we assume that they're having the steady growth, their refinement of their physical skills. Sometimes they're still clumsy. And then whenever they get to be 12 to 18-year-olds, they're hitting puberty. I don't know how middle school teachers do it. Bless you, I could not go there. And then we get into sexual maturation and brain development. Their brain is not developed until they're 25. So, they say something and you're like, and you got to smack them across the forehead. Don't smack them across the forehead. It's still developing. All right, so we assume that they can run, play games, play hopscotch, ride a tricycle, all of these activities. You may not be able to do all of these activities in your catechism classroom, but if you can incorporate some, you are connecting different parts of the brain. So if you can somehow add one of those to your classroom, you're getting them up moving, you're getting the blood flow moving through their brain. Whenever they are 6 to 12 years old, we assume that they can play organized sports, they jump rope, ride a scooter, any of those things. If you can somehow incorporate that, it would be fabulous. Whenever they get to be 12 to 18-year-olds, still not making smart choices. But this is kind of the point where they have a logical reason of why they made their smart choice, not so smart choice, yes. And I can send it to y'all whenever we're done too. No, you're fine. All right, so what is their brain physically capable of doing at this point? So, early childhood, 3 to 6-year-olds, we assume that they can play, we can assume that they can basic problem solve. And then they're, of course, developing their language, hopefully for the better. They've heard it at home, chances are they're going to repeat it in your classroom. Middle schoolers, or middle childhood, 6 to 12 years old, Concrete operational stage. They can think logically. So if this happened, then this happened. We assume that they can think logically. You'll have those few cases that cannot. And then school learning. What they do at school versus what they do at home are two completely different things. Likewise, if they're sitting in your catechism class, do they go to church on Sundays? I see some yes, some no's. So if they've never been in the church, but yet they're sitting there and you're talking about the host or the cup or any of those symbolic things, they may have never seen it other than a picture in their book. So take them to the church. Take them to show them those objects in the church so they understand what you are talking about. Whenever you get to the 12 to 18-year-olds, abstract thinking, metacognition, which is thinking about thinking. What were you thinking whenever you did that thing? And then future planning. Even in the school setting, as they're 14, we're asking them, what are you going to do with your life? Who knew what they were going to do whenever they were 14? I just hit 40 and I think I finally realized what I'm going to do. So, what can I have them do in the catechism classroom? This one will be a little bit easier because you're not running, jumping, hopping, skipping. But you could give them a picture, have them sort the picture, have them place all the things that belong on the altar, if you give them the pictures to do so. If they're really good drawers, have them draw it. I can't draw, but I can print some pictures off and cut them out, and you can put them where they belong. Let them repeat the stories you've told them. Puzzles, counting, pretend play. Have them act out the scenes you're talking about if you have various scenes from the Bible that you are talking about in your lesson for the day. And then let them ask why. Will you have all the answers? No. But could you say, I'll get back to you next week? And ask around, yes. So as they get a little bit older, can you find a board game? Monopoly has come out with all kinds of versions of Monopoly. Pretty sure somebody's working on a Catholic version. Different things. Science experiments. I don't know what you're really going to science experiment in the class, but maybe you can get creative there. Reading comprehension and book discussions. So I'm assuming you all have some type of book you use in your catechism classroom, right? Okay, so I caution you, some kids can listen and understand what people are reading aloud. Some have to read it themselves. So if somebody is reading aloud, please give these students a copy so they can at least follow along. Creative writing and journaling. So give them a topic. You know, I don't know about y'all, but ours kind of straggle into class. Like, okay, the doors are open. We have some that might be there at 5:50, and then we have some that are still straggling in at 6:05. And class starts at 6. Give them something to start the day with. What do you think about Jesus' time during this time period? Or what do you think about the church service we just had on Sunday, if they were there at the church service? Give them a Bible verse. What do we think it means? And then talk about the true interpretation of what it means as they're coming into class, so they have something to get started on. Math problem solving. I don't know that that would really help you. I guess you could talk about the time frames of stuff that's happened during history. And then research projects. And it says with guidance. I always tell my kids that I'm teaching in the college level, if they can't do it in your classroom, don't give them something to send home. Because chances are they might not get that help at home that they need. So make sure it's age appropriate and they are cognitively able to do it. And then if somehow they could create a code or a robotic for catechisms, so be it. That's not my area. My child could probably tell you all about it, not me. So whenever we get to ages 12 to 18, they can debate and persuade opinions. So could you have a debate about something going on in your lesson? Make sure you set the groundwork of, okay, you can't do A, B, and C, D before you start, because then you may get something like straight the line. How far can I push the buttons? Once again, science and math, we'll skip over that one. Philosophical questions. So a lot of times in their own classrooms at this age, they are sitting almost in a round table discussion format. Okay, well, if this topic comes up, then how do we counteract it? What could we do to help it? What could we do to hinder it? So they are capable of those conversations. And then you have some other things that those children of that age should be able to do. So whenever we talk about emotions, as my 2 adopted kids are now 10, about to be 11, and 12, I'm like, did you have a good day? Yeah. Well, okay, what happened today? I don't know. Okay, I've been gone from you for 12 hours and nothing happened that you can remember? Their emotions are not all developing at the same spot as we assume they would. All right, so ages 3 to 6, they're developing peer relationships. Chances are if their parents don't have good relationship skills, they kind of follow in the footsteps. We hope that they're gaining some independence. We also have some that have some learned helplessness. And then emotion regulation. If they come in at a heightened emotion, they don't tend to go back down to that normal baseline until they sleep that night. So just keep in mind, if they're already agitated, don't keep adding to it. It's just going to get worse for you. Same thing whenever we get to those middle schoolers, they're still working on those peer relationships. Self-concept, so who am I? And then moral understanding. What is right from wrong? Well, if they see their parents do it, then they assume it's right, which is not always the case, but they are working on it. As we get to 12 to 18-year-olds, identity formation, peer influence. I don't know, I think it kind of starts a little bit younger than that, but research says it starts at 12, and then increased independence. And my thought of children's independence versus another parent's probably a different level, so keep that in mind. I actually had to look it up because somebody asked me, how old can a child be to stay at home in Louisiana by themselves? It is undefined.
Based on the child.
Yeah. Yeah. Does the parent think the child is capable?
It's crazy. It's called
Emotional regulation comes into play in adolescence as well, just as a parent.
All right, so early childhood, 3 to 6-year-olds, again, we expect that they can name their emotions. Are you sad? Are you happy? Once again, depending on the background, they may not be able to do that. I have a 12-year-old who still looks at me. I'm like, are you sad? I'm like, I can't help you if you don't tell me what you're feeling, sister. All right? You may use picture cards or mirrors to help them with those feelings. They may need a calm down moment. And once again, remember, if they're already escalated, they're still not going to go all the way back down. They may calm down a little bit, but not all the way back to the original day starting. Story time discussion. Okay, let's talk about our feelings. Why are we feeling this? What can we not do in order to feel that way again? And then role play and sharing and breathing exercises. So, middle schoolers, there's that journal again. It's kind of a common theme through everything we talk about whenever we're talking about children and their developing stages. Give them a journal. They may not say it out loud, but they may write it down. You may not be able to read what they wrote either, but they may write it for you. Conflict resolution. Same thing, if they can't see that at home, they don't have the skills whenever they get to school or catechism classroom. Gratitude activities. Some children are just not taught to say please and thank you anymore. So keep that in mind. You may be the only person in their life that's modeling those skills. And then team sports or group projects. Be mindful, be sure to set your expectations before you say, hey, go do this. You can do A, B, C, or D, but you cannot do J, K, L, M. What you can do, what you can't do. And then mindful moments. So whenever I walked in, y'all were all doing adoration. Give the kids that time, quiet reflection, to think about what's going on, what can they pray about. And you may have to model it for the first couple of times because they may have never seen that taking place. But give them that time as well. So whenever we get to older kids, they can have peer support groups. Does anybody have, my older teachers, does anybody have like a group me chat or something with all their kids in it? Are y'all allowed to have that within the, no? Okay.
Our
Youth group, something?
does. He's
Okay.
not here, but he's got them on, I think it's a text. And then confirmation, they have a group me.
Okay. I lost my place. Oh, Journaling again, decision making, volunteer opportunities. What are they doing now for confirmation? I know our guys had to go out and do some community works, but what are other parishes doing? Any confirmation teachers?
We
Do you-
get donations and we ask the church support to actually help with their donations and we
Okay.
give them to different charities.
Okay, awesome. And then stress management. We don't think about, okay, we need stress management, but these kids have so much on their plate. They're playing sports. They're required to do so much academically, and then we're throwing in confirmation. What strategy can we help them with? Maybe it takes 5 minutes out of our classroom time, but what can we help them with? And then healthy relationship discussions. What are boundaries? Because children don't know boundaries. All right, so we know what we need, what they should be able to do cognitively. We know what they should be able to do physically and emotionally. But what is keeping them from being at that stage of learning where we think they should be? So nourishment. And it's not only just true food, drink, beverages type thing. It is physical and mental. If I live in a household where I never see my parents, or my parents are always yelling, fighting, arguing, their brain is at that heightened level where no matter what we just tell them at a baseline, they don't understand it until we match that level that they're used to at home, sadly. Their abilities, likewise, if they're seeing all that at home, they have what they call adverse childhood experiences, bad things that have happened to them, then they are not able to learn at a level of what all the research says, okay, they should be here because they are this age. Essentially, the bad things at home are damaging their brain. And then, number 3, motivation and engagement. So, close your eyes for me. By show of hands, how many think that video games cause ADHD? Okay, you put your hands down. All right, you may open your eyes. So the video games do not truly cause ADHD, but the reaction time of the video games causes their brain to think they need instant gratification on everything they do. So we're having to keep up that speed and match the level of what's going on at home, and we're trying to get these kids to understand that the number line starts here and ends here. So that is why we're struggling with motivation and engagement in our classrooms. So, how do we keep the kids motivated and engaged? Whenever you start your lesson planning, I'm hoping you at least open the lesson the day before you have to teach it. I can't say, hey, open it a week before, because I wouldn't be that person. But look at it before you get in the classroom. What am I teaching? What resources can I pull in? What materials do I need? Do I need more than paper and a pencil? My first year, Father Rick bought me a pack of chart paper. Well, I taught my lesson, and then I put it back in the resource room. Well, the next week I go, I'm like, hey, can I have some more chart paper? He goes, I just gave you a pack last week. What'd you do with it? I was like, no, I just put it back in the room. Can I go get it again? He goes, yes. But he thought I was using a whole pack of chart paper, the big one, every session. I'm like, no, I just put it back up. Can I get a sheet again? He's like, yes. And then what activities can we pull in? So from those other cognitive, physical, and emotional slides, what can I pull off of there to keep those kids engaged? Okay, we got to read the lesson. Okay, we have to discuss the lesson. Okay, we might have some questions at the end of the lesson. What else can I add to it? Because if we just sit there and read the lesson, how long is it going to take us? Little people, maybe 5 minutes. Because I can think back to the first grade manual, it was like 1 page and some questions. So what else can I pull? And essentially, you don't want to keep them there for more than 20 minutes on one task. In a perfect world, an adult who is 20 could sit and function for 20 minutes. If you're 80, you cannot function for 80 minutes and listen to somebody speak. So keep that in mind. 5-year-old, we can keep them engaged for about 5 minutes. 10-year-old, about 10 minutes. Then we need to change things up to keep them engaged. And then whenever we're presenting that information, if you want them to do something with it, you need to teach it. So what are you as the teacher doing? and then do it with them together, or have them tell you the steps that you're going to do in the process, and then you can release them to do it. We can't just say, hey, go do this, because they don't understand all the processes that go along with it. We as adults may, but they as children do not have that understanding yet. So that is all I have for you for the presentation. Are there any other questions, or do you have like a thought that, hey, I have to teach this lesson, how could I do it? Okay, thank you.
I know you mentioned the middle childhood, and you know, from the slides you have grouped 6 to 12 together.
Yes, and there is a huge difference, yes.
Between an elementary school kid and a middle school kid, because I teach First Communion kids.
Yes.
They're not same as, you know, a 10-year-old or
No, absolutely not.
12-year-old. So there is a huge.
And even within that, like, okay, mine were 7 and 9 whenever they started their First Communion class. Essentially, they were, should not have been at that stage. But it took them 2 years to understand the information because of all the trauma that they had experienced beforehand. So we label them as a 7-year-old, but they're not really a 7-year-old. So everything has to be on a kid-by-kid basis.
Some struggle actually to read when they join the class.
Yes.
Which means I cannot just stick a book to them and say, okay, I want one of you to read it, discuss. That was one of the points that you put it up on the slide. So, but towards the end of the First Communion class, I do see that they are able to read, but in the beginning, like, you lose 6 months.
Yes. So that may be one of those, at the beginning of the year, you go, okay, raise your hand if you like to read out loud. Because chances are, if they can't read very well, they're not really going to say, yeah, I want to do it. I mean, you may have that one off that will, but I would, survey the class. Okay, can they read? Do they want to read out loud? Because even as a high schooler, I didn't want to read out loud. So keep that in mind. Yes?
What would be some of the silver bullets to get the children to want to be there instead of having to be there? How do we get their mind set and ready to absorb? Ready, I want to be here. I want to be amongst the friends or whatever. I constantly hear, well, the Protestants are doing this, and they got
yes.
going on over here with popcorn and cotton candy and a circus clown.
Yes. He's absolutely right. I've had mine. Can I go to church with somebody? Nope. And I teach at a mainly Baptist institution, and they're like, well, we do this and this and this, and I go to chapel, and I'm like, we're up there singing. We're not dancing, but they're singing and engaging, lights going, all this stuff. Your job as a teacher is to put on a show for the children each time you get up there to teach that catechism lesson.
What does that look like for us today?
So,
as we try to attract the youth that they want to be there.
Yeah. Go back to the beginning, the first slide I had, your agenda. What are we doing today? Okay, we have to read this chapter, we have to go through this, but then put something in there that they can talk to each other about, have a discussion about, an activity that they can incorporate, all those kinds of things, so that you're changing task about every 5 minutes, so that they can get through this stuff.
And it depends on the grade level too.
Yes, very much.
Because like 3rd grade, I mean, they want to interact, they want to cooperate.
Yeah, as they get older, they tend to, especially if they have a hard time at school and they're like burnt out by the end of the day. If I have to tell them they have to sit in catechism for another hour, I'm like, it's only an hour, you can do it. Come on, your teacher's going to do this, you're going to do this activity. Okay. So
I teach confirmation, and the students are at the LSMSA school. We have a lot going on.
Yes.
We ask one simple thing is to write a saint paper, and I do this throughout the whole time we're teaching and getting ready for confirmation. I have the hardest time getting them to do one thing, and I'm wondering, is there a way we could, should we use negative consequences because they're not doing what we're asking is mandatory? And they never do it. They just seem to put other things ahead of it, and it's very frustrating because you're only asking one thing and it still doesn't get done.
Okay, so in my mind, that one thing, I'm thinking about my own kids who are at that stage.
Yes.
If I say go write a paper, I'm going to have tears, I'm going to have snot flying.
Yes.
It's a hard task for them, so I'd go, I know.
LSMSA.
I know.
I
know.
We know they do.
They're capable of it, but it's a matter of sitting down and doing it.
May I share, I have a child that's in confirmation classes right now.
Okay.
And she
she's got a 4.2, she's taking college classes. They're overwhelmed. And so
I get that.
she's looking for her saint, but she's like, there's so many, and I don't know who I want. And so it's not that they don't want to do it for you, but it's like they're paralyzed. Like, honestly, like they don't know what to pick. They don't know who to pick.
Like their anxiety level as a child is like through the roof. I'm like, why are you so?
Experience as young adults, as teenagers.
Really?
What's the way to go?
And especially there, it's a fear of failure because the expectation is up here, whereas our regular kids are here. And it's like, okay, if
Pick a saint thing, like we did with the Living Faith group. Just have them pick a saint, and that's your saint. Here you go. Saint chose you.
you got lots of hands up, so.
You're gonna, you're gonna find this information, whatever, these are the things you need to find out about whatever saint you pick. But maybe this child likes to write, let them write a paper, but this child's more theatrical. But have them do some kind of.
Act it out, yes.
Presentation. This one's artistic, they wanna do a big poster.
Yeah.
Like give them options so that they don't, because like you said, like some kids like to write and they're fine, okay, sure, I'll write it, I'll get it all. But then you got this one over here going, I hate to write, I hate this, it's horrible.
Good point.
Yeah. So do you have to have it in a written form?
Okay.
I mean, and even if like they did a poster, you'd still have proof they did it, or a video. You can video them
I
doing
agree.
it.
I want to see the theatrical, but
Definitely comment on that. So we do the same thing with our confirmation kids, but we tell them, like, pick something that you like. Like, if you like, the boys like hunting, or one of the kids like hunting, then that narrow your saints down to that.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, one of the girls already told us, she said she picked St. Anthony, so I forget things all the time. It kind of helps them to narrow
Make it
the saints
personal.
down, to help them not seeing hundreds or thousands,
Yes,
of
yes,
saints
yes.
to go through, and they can pick some.
Mine
They
had the
Google.
question, does it have to be the same gender as me? Because she was like, can
That's
I pick
true.
a male saint? Do I have to have a female saint? They have so many questions and they're afraid to ask you.
Yes,
Because
yes.
they don't want to disappoint you. You know, you think they're intelligent, and they should know. They have no idea. They have no clue.
that makes sense
And
now.
I put the agenda for it, the saints, because if they choose something they like or can relate to, it doesn't matter if it's male or female.
Exactly.
It's what's relatable
Oh,
to
I
them.
totally agree. Yeah, no, thank you.
And I saw another hand.
So you could actually just gather a list of saints, and sometimes I like to focus with the youth on saints that are not popular to make them learn about saints that they don't already know about. And you can gender them boy, male, female, and make them pull so that God's guiding them into whatever saint they need to learn about. And then
Very good.
I like that idea.
All great suggestions. Thank you.
I saw one more hand.
Different subject.
Okay.
I find the greatest barrier in our class, we have confirmation class, is getting these kids to open up, to feel safe, and able to communicate. I love how you pointed out no longer the teacher at the beginning of the front of the class lecturing. That doesn't work. We definitely believe on the interactive approach, but any tips on how to make them more open to interact and to feel safe and not fear that their friends are going to make fun of it, that thing.
So that is actually called felt safety. There's nothing, let me not say nothing. They have to feel safe in their area. So like whenever we get a baby from foster care, it took us about 6 months with our last one, but it wasn't until I laid her down for bed one night, she goes, that I knew she felt safe, because I mean she couldn't communicate with me. She was 1, but she was very delayed. So that's kind of one of those things. The pig drawing y'all did at the beginning, do some type of icebreaker, get to know the kids. If I know, okay, we're talking about, I had a thought and then it went away.
Pig.
Pig. And then, I know somebody wants to go and be a firefighter. Okay. Well, which saint is the one that keeps us safe from all those incidents? Challenge question?
May I share? Take them, don't just let them get together at confirmation class. Like, do outings together, like not even really church related, but our high school youth, they go to top acts, they have picnics, they spend time as friends, and so they get to know each other and they trust each other. And then if you're their leader, be vulnerable. We have an amazing, he's amazing. And he's on their level, and he finds like Forrest Frank songs, like he pulls things that they're listening to and he incorporates it in the class, like in the setting. and they just talk to each other. Now, they're not going to share everything, but when they spend more time together outside of confirmation, they open up more.
And
Very
their
good.
leader embarrasses the heck out of himself.
Yes.
Like, I'm talking, like, does the running man in front of them, and they're all just like this. That is,
Mary Mother of Jesus, they love him, they trust him, they like call him if they have problems.
yeah, so it's not just vulnerability as far, from what I've seen, from what he does a great job of, it's not just vulnerability in like your emotions, but like being able to like act completely ridiculous.
Yes.
And it really sets it really kind of just breaks off that like barrier of wanting to like look cool because someone else looks more ridiculous than they do. And so that makes them feel more comfortable. And it takes time. Like our kids have been going to things together, social events that have nothing to do with church. It's really about building like that fellowship for years, and they love each other, and then they're able to have real conversations. And when someone new comes into the fold, they sense that comfortability, and they're able to kind of jump into that. It's really, really beautiful to see.
Yes, ma'am.
I do ninth grade. I did ninth grade last year, and now I'm doing 10th grade. They want to come back with me. In the 10th grade, they want to follow.
Okay, good.
But when I did ninth grade, it was hard. You know, a lot of them didn't know even their prayers. You know,
Yes.
so they didn't know their prayers. They didn't know a lot of saints. They didn't know parts of the Mass. Some of them wouldn't come to Mass all the time.
Right.
They had their issues with their families, school pressure and all that. So it was hard
It is.
to pick and choose. This year in the 10th that I'm taking them, I've talked with the confirmation teacher, and I'm trying to say, what do I need to do in the 10th grade that'll help you
Yes.
prepare them more for confirmation, because they have to make that decision.
Yes.
So it's difficult. There's not really a textbook that I can follow, so I pull from
Yes.
the Bible and
Yes.
stories, and they seem to relate to that. And then I feed them at the beginning. They have snacks and something, and
Yes, kids love food.
we do a Christian song, and they talk about their day a little bit. You know, a lot of them go to the same school.
Gotcha.
So, but it's hard.
It
You know,
is, very
to
much.
get their trust. Yeah, that's what I find hard. I love it, but it's hard.
And as far as learning prayers, especially little ones, I don't want to say I didn't teach mine. I did teach mine, but I didn't say, okay, say this next, say this next. Like I would say a line, and then they would say a line, and then I'd say another line. And a lot of times I was like, okay, I forgot what I said, so I'd have to go back through the whole thing. But that's how mine learned them. It's like we would say them every night over and over and over. But I would say that at the opening of class, have them say their prayers with you every time.
I don't know if other teachers are having that same issue from 9th to 10th, and then here's
Gotcha.
issues from.
Yeah. Anybody else in that 9th, 10th bracket?
Yeah.
A couple of them. So are y'all seeing the kind of the same things?
Yeah, well, for us, we do, and generally when they start the class for confirmation, they're really to themselves. They don't really want to open up. But one thing that I found was very helpful with us is getting them to understand they're on this journey for themselves.
Yes.
So prior
Yes.
to this point, it was your parents' responsibility to take you to church, say your prayers, make time for God. It was forced upon you, but getting them to understand, okay, you have your social life, but this is your spiritual life, and it's just as important. So as you're growing up, you have to have this relationship with God. And then telling them in class, this is a judgment-free zone. There's no question that's a bad question or a stupid question. If you don't feel comfortable with asking the question during class, that we're always there. So we do make ourselves available too outside of class if they have questions. But they generally kind of open up. And when one student does kind of that way and start laughing, like, no, that's not acceptable. You know, we're here on this journey together, and they generally kind of just they I don't know, their comfort level just gets.
They expect we're adults, we have everything figured out. So if we can kind of be transparent with you, how did you get on your own journey to where you are now? Because if I had to tell my kids like everything that happened in my life, they would go, we don't always make the smartest decisions. So anything else? Yes.
Something. So I teach the first communion class. Even for this first communion, I tell the kids that you need to pray independently, learn to pray independently.
Yes.
You know, your parents are going to be there, but you know, all of us are parents. Like right at 7 o'clock when they're ready to go to bed, we have other things to do. We want to finish up. You know, I have 4 kids. That's why.
Yeah, mine are after 8 o'clock, don't come see me unless you're dying or bleeding.
I know. I tell the parents too, I said it should come from you, teach them to be independent because it's their personal journey. You know, you can only be there so long and for so much time in the day, they are going to be spending the rest of their life alone. So they need to cultivate that habit of connecting to God independently from their heart. So I think it should start young.
It should, absolutely.
High school. That's my point.
Interestingly, you said that. I, grew up in the Catholic Church. We said the Our Father, we said the Hail Mary, Angel of God. And so, whenever I got to high school, 9th, 10th grade, I was dating this guy, and he went to the Methodist church. I had never been to another church in my life. So I went to church with him, and I'm like, they don't say the same prayers over and over. He's like, what are you talking about? And so they don't know that we can pray other ways unless we teach them that they can pray other ways.
Is it a good thing to maybe, I don't know, at maybe an earlier grade, to have a meeting with the parents and say, this is their catechetical time, maybe it's a one-on-one with a parent, or
it's not a bad idea. My only caution,
where they know and what they don't know, or what we're going to be teaching them along the way. Parents can help at home.
It's good in theory, but your ones who don't bring the kids to church are going to be the same ones who don't show up for the meeting. So, but yeah, and if you want. A lot of times in elementary school, the teacher will send home, what are we doing for the week? That may be something to send home to the parents. Maybe they'll read it, maybe they don't. But at least you're providing them something that they can see. All right?
Like you said, a lot of kids only get their religion on that Wednesday night. That 90% of them don't go to Mass. They don't show up. Their parents don't go.
Right.
So what you are able to give, what you can give in that hour is all that they're able to receive to know what their religion even is.
Right. Yeah. So, anything else? All right, hopefully you got something. This is my contact information. If you would like the presentation, or if you have any other questions, my email is up there and my phone number is up there. It is a Google number, so it may say you've reached the Google line. You can either leave me a message or text me at that address if you have any questions. All right, thank y'all. Thank you.